Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to show you how this carousel sequence has contributed to a 600K month 30-day time frame revenue for one client with one offer with 3 lean A-player teams. I'm going to show you as well how I'm replicating to my own brand, which made me generate like 20K deals in the first 50 days of launching my own offer. But also, you need to understand how to make sure that you can get this concept for yourself, for your own, for you to not be a monkey see, monkey do guy, so you can generate your own industry leading platforms or formats that you can use. Because, mind you, this format that we pioneered with one of my clients is copied time and time again, desperately, with a lot of offers with similar adjacent industries, even with AI, even with SMMA, even with consulting. Because chances are you're looking at this concepts and posts and you're seeing that, okay, this one is working. I think it's visually good looking. I think it would contribute to my brand, but you don't really understand how to make it yourself in a nuclear level. So in order for you to like not do the same mistakes that these guys are doing, by the way, no shots to these guys. I hope they're watching this and they can find improvements into themselves from someone who was actually pioneered and they copied it from. So yeah, I care for you guys. So for example, this one, he literally copied the exact same blue one, although not on the same shade, but on the submarine ranges. But you can see even these five are all different companies, but they have the same focal length. So you can see that they literally just downloaded all of these pictures, they put it in a Claude project, and then they said, okay, make me a carousel sequence maker that makes me copy this, right? And then they some of them are, they have different mistakes that they can. And today we're going to make sure that if you somehow want to copy this, you're not going to make the same mistakes. Because you can see here, someone like this, this one is like, they copied it like step by step and like almost identical, but they didn't have the right knowledge and implementation for themselves to get the right tactile proof and the social embodiment of how you can literally make this solid, right? And then they desperately try to improve it, but still they're lacking 1, 2, 3 elements that makes this carousel really appealing and contributes to that 600K month that we've hit, right? And so before we discuss all of that, you can also like see here that I've taken inspirations from the literal bodies of knowledge that has already been working, mainly Pinterest, and the rules that I've learned as an architecture student before, and mainly the 63010 rule, the color theories, and also the exact like implementations, because I'm just gonna ungatekeep onto this video. And if you're still sticking, thank you for that, but thank yourself mainly, because if you have case studies and proof of your offer that is proven, you can make this for yourself and guaranteed that this is gonna contribute to a record month that you have never seen before. Because this is not just visual, right? We're gonna discuss the 6-stage visual branding system, but you have to understand that the visual is the most minute part of this, right? Visual has nothing to do with how this is all converting. Although we're gonna make sure that you have a perception in the industry, because just look at this. This is like visually superior to this because they mainly just copied it. And then this exact company, they copied it, but they didn't have the they didn't understand the exact structure, but they tried to improve it for themselves, but they're losing that texture. So first, we need to understand who you actually are as a brand, because we cannot build all of this without discussing who you are and what inner world are you trying to propagate, so that your exact ICP can just come into this inner world of yours. They see it and they resonate with it with all their identity driven by their behaviors, right? So big examples, big names, right? We're going to Iman. Iman has that branding of like flagship, premium, but mainstream, very abstract, very bold, and he applied it into his main YouTube channel. He also applied it into his companies, Educate, Monetize, his platform, even in consulting.com. His overall vibe is like GQ meets Wolf of Wall Street. It's like corporate but bold, like for young men seeking freedom and power. The reason why he made this exact design, or his team made this exact design, is because they're targeting younger people. So they need to make sure that, okay, everything is vibrant, everything is deep contrast, because the people looking into this are youthful people who wants that thrill of business. They want that cool, savvy vibe of a young founder in his 20s, right? It signifies power, red, dominance, blue, luxury, and mystery, which is black, right? It's high status, it's rebellious luxury with a self-made alpha male edge. Because the niche is like SMMA and make money online. And we all know the common myth that is getting sold to the make money online space, right? Because make money online space is most especially rebellious. It's like fuck the regular education industry, fuck college, let's make money online, right? That's the reason why they made this specific branding. How about Matt Gray? You have to understand that Matt Gray's business, or ICP, and who he's talking to are founders, executives, and busy professionals, right? And so he's pushing for optimization. He's also pushing for that peace, because he understands that busy professionals, executives are sometimes stuck and tired and sick of what their environment offers them. So you see that he's literally combined nature into his own branding. Earthy warm colors, brown, green, white, blue, neon green, something like this, and intertext, right? It's an overall vibe with build the machine, not the hustle. Business growth meets calm, clarity. It's growth and prosperity with this yellowish green. This deep green means hope and health. It's the brown signifies enthusiasm and youthfulness. Because again, busy professionals, busy guys, executives, tired and sick of the 9 to 5 rat race, and even that four-cornered walls, which is anxious, depressing colors. His niche is solopreneurship and digital nomad. So it starts to make sense for him, right? What about Dan Koe? Dan Koe has that monolithic white, black, noir branding. Why? Because he's literally a writer. What does a writer do? They write books, they write articles, black and white on black, right? So his branding literally signifies what a writer has, what a writer embodies, not just in the colors, guys. Not just in the colors, but how he presented himself, right? You can see that, of course, following that 60-30-10 rule, which is like 60% of one color, 30% of another color, and then 10% of another color, right? Dan Koe's vibe is like modern monk meets knowledge worker. Simplicity is equals to focus and trust. Depth and sophistication. Right, black and white, so simple as fuck. It's like 100 years of black and white in this. Right, it's intellectual entrepreneurship or solopreneurship with minimalistic clarity and disruptive depth. Disruptive depth. If you understand that, if he somehow like, imagine there's suddenly a yellow blob in here, right? There's a big yellow circle here in here. The depth and the sophistication suddenly disappears, right? Now, his writing, his content creation, and his thought leadership. Now, let's look at our client, my guy, which is Nick Setting, right? Nick Setting is like almost that rebellious type, but he always optimized for that simplicity. Although he optimizes for simplicity, he still managed to show his complexity by creating simple stuff. Right? You understand that he presents himself as simple as possible, but he shows complex stuff, right? This is just a simple mirror board. This is a simple presentation, but this has complex bodies of knowledge working together as one, right? It's detail-oriented and purpose-driven, right? So we created this logo for him, right? We created this logo for him, and it's like it's just G with a little bit arrow and some accentuations and all of it. It's so simple that everyone, when they think of that G blue guy, it's Nick Setting, right? And not only on the colors, on the blue, on the logos, and on the branding. You have to understand that when you think of Nick's setting, you think of someone in a penthouse in Dubai speaking in front of a mirror board. That's his whole entire brand with confidence, conviction, and clarity, right? And that's what we wanted to portray because all of this contributes to his growth. He made 600K in February, right? It's authority and credibility. And most importantly, yellow, which is optimism. It's precision built, authoritative, polished, detail oriented tactical system because his niche is consultancy. When B2B founders hear that, okay, he actually has certain precision in what he's doing, I can trust him because he always takes his authority and then he polishes as every single time he presents himself. And most importantly, he's detail oriented in all his tactical systems that he presents to the people, right? And because of all of that, you have to understand how to take inspirations from all these kinds of bodies of knowledge. Because if you just copy, right? If you just copy, just like these guys, you'll be treated as the cheaper version of the original, right? You'll be treated as the cheaper version of the original. So let's make it simple. What is a carousel? Right? The goal of a carousel isn't to teach everything. It's to engineer a sequence of belief shifts that move a reader from curiosity to action. The entire reason why this contributed to $500,000 in 30 days revenue is because it's all deeply rooted in a conversion driven branding, right? It's built to root behavior by taking action and rooting decision. Meaning, the mental model here, because the mental model that what others follow is like information, you provide lots of information, you get pretty slides or like pretty presentation of what you want to achieve, and then they achieve likes, they achieve followers, maybe they have a client, right? But the core principle of what we want to study is we want a high converting carousel that follows this psychological journey. We want to generate attention, which you can see here. Visually appealing banner from 0 to 200K in hypnosis, from 0 to 100K in 2.5 months, from 0 to 78K in 30 days. All of these are authority-driven branding messages that only someone credible with a lot of authority and lots of client results can say to anyone watching or reading this, right? It must spark curiosity, meaning the next slide after that sparks authority. This is how Carlos became an industry-leading law firm consultant in the Spanish market. Okay, so this is not just a result. This is not just a breakdown of what they did. This actually has a solid effect on how this milestone has affected him in his life. For example, let's look at a better example where you can see that this guy, for example, he built a 7-figure info offer. That's why he was able to connect with bigger names. Luke Bermond, Ashel Speed, Jordan Welsh, right? You can see this guy. He built a 15K per month to 51K per month in 4 months company, and he was able to be, how do you say that, advertised or featured in WAP's billboards. And he's considered as the WAP's fastest growing consultancy in the general contractor niche, right? You can also see that Daniel was traveling the world without the overlying thought in his mind that his company would not run because he's not there. Because you have to understand as well, one thing to note is that all of this has a different message to all of them. All of this takes different framing, different messaging, different platform that they want to propagate in the narrative that they're trying to tell. Because you can see that all 5 slides, all 5 carousel sequences, you know that every single one of this is telling the same exact fucking story. Exact same fucking story, right? Banner, how he doubled, blah, 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 where he started, insight, and then CTA. Banner, start of the story, inside CTA. Banner, who is, what we did, achievement, CTA. Boom. Boring as fuck, right? It's gonna be boring when you do that, because like every single time the people knows what to expect, and there's not a different flavor being added in a single day-to-day basis, right? In a different carousel. Now, when you look at this, it's like different lengths, meaning different stories. Different stories meaning different angles. Different angles means different framing, messaging, and positioning. And all those things come up, and different combinations would produce different pain points, different outcomes, and different desired places and situations that you could use in your marketing that can attract different clients, different bodies of like segments, different demographics, right? That's the importance of being an industry leader. Is not just thinking, okay, I'm not gonna make a carousel, and I'm not gonna make everything because like someone already did this, and I'm just gonna create the copy and make sure that I would delegate this, I would put this on to my other employees, and then boom, job done. Now, what if you could have literally developed this own style that you are the one getting copy? And that's what we're gonna be discussing, what we're already discussing. Every slide should answer one question. What belief am I changing? If a slide doesn't change a belief, it probably doesn't need it to exist, right? If it all is the same exact thing, it doesn't need to exist. If this and this and this and this from the same exact companies, for example, you have this, right? You have this, you have this, you have this. What the fuck is the reason why all these three are existing? All these four of this is existing if it's the exact same thing as this one. I'm getting passionate, right? I'm getting passionate for this because I know that I was the main one who pioneered this concept. And I'm not going to take all the credit. Of course, I've taken inspiration from Pinterest, of course. And I've taken inspiration from different walks of life. But the main thing that I can say, most proudly say is that I didn't copy this from my competitor, right? These guys copy this from their competitor, and that's why they're a option B, right? And again, this is not a shot. This is not a, how do you say that? Shot for them. I don't know how to say a better word, but hopefully they can watch this video and then they can prove on it. So next, how do we make sure that the design rules are rooted on how can we make sure that we create a conversion-driven branding, right? Conversion-driven branding. Conversion-driven branding is the art of selling through visuals. We said in the very beginning that, okay, this is not going to be a visual-driven tutorial or visual-driven guide. But you have to understand that perception matters most. The reason why you think of this and this and this and this as premium is because they're following subtle rules that is rooted on hundreds and thousands years of studies, right? And I learned this from architecture. I learned this from learning branding. Even the color theory, even the brands that you know exist today, Tesla, Jordan, Apple, right? All those brands, they don't just do it for the sake of being pretty. They do it to make billions of dollars, right? So you have to design this as well. Because under a plethora of a diverse collection of visuals, you marry the core of every image to form an intellectual polygamy of ideas, falling in love from one concept to another to form an offspring dependent of its structure but separate in form, right? In a world where simplicity is almost an embarrassment, conversion-driven branding boldly embraces the stillness by design to uplift the message which ultimately leads to conversion, right? What is the last line? It embraces the stillness by design by uplifting which ultimately leads to conversion. right? And so one thing to note is I'm a graphic designer, but you have to understand how to make sure that the design doesn't dilute the message. The message has to be clear, concise, and compact as much as possible without diluting the actual message that you're trying to propagate. Because if someone is too focused on the visual branding, oh, I love the colors, oh, I love the elements, oh, I love the fonts, that's going to be what's on their mind the entire time. They're not going to read the message, and they're not going to see the proof. They're not going to see the angles. They're not going to see the social proof in which they're going to go and buy. So how do we make sure and take the actual steps in order for that to be the reality? One idea per slide. One idea, just one idea per slide. Keep text concise and scannable, right? It's always scannable, right? So for example here, when you look at this, the first thing that you see is like from 19K to 80K in 4 months. And then you look at the niche, right? So because the proof is like for founders, we want to attract founders, but not all founders are business consultants. So we would rather take the money because everyone understands money. Everyone understands dollars, right? Everyone understands that. So that's what we're trying to do. Then we make it scannable, right? The scannable part is like, okay, how we help Mark become the #1 business consultant. That's it. In the Spanish market. So we made sure that this is just in a secondary phone, the Spanish market, because the industry or the market doesn't matter. What matters is that we help Mark become the #1 business consultant in whatever market it is. You could be in the Italian market, you could be in the French market, in the Russian market, in the Chinese market. You could be the #1 as long as you read all of this and sign me as your client, as your mentor. We also see the proof. The proof, the beginning and what we decided to take next steps, and then CDAs, proof again. Proofs, all stacking proof, right? And then we use diagrams instead of long paragraphs. We hate paragraphs. We hate long paragraphs in all of this. We want to make sure that it's all one sentence, like just at least one sentence, right? So this is just like title and then one sentence, and then proof, right? And then one sentence again. 2 sentences in maximum 1 slide. Here, this is like more of a bulleted format, so it defeats the point. But you have to understand that in design, it's always okay to break the rules one day at a time, one time at a time, right? Sometimes we need to break the rules. We need to make sure that the layering of that proof and the stacking of the social proof is all there, right? All the concepts there, all in there, right? Now, we build a curiosity so each slide naturally leads to the next. How do we do that? We added this. How did it happen? Like consistent 5-figure deals with the best fulfillment. How did it happen? You make sure that there's always an open loop, because chances are, okay, Carlos did 187K in 6 months. He's a law firm coach. Oh, okay, he's been in the industry leading consultant in law firm industry. But what now? You always need to make sure that there's always open loops. Before joining, working 80 hours a week with a complex fulfillment for needy clients. Pain. Agitate the pain. Add more salt to the pain, to the injury, right? How did we solve it? We built his sales framework. So you see, it's all one sentence. One sentence connects to the next. How did we solve it? We built the sales framework. What happened next? We built leverage. We collected 110K cash PIF. Insane. Then later that month, we had 107K, 87K MRR. Now, how do we make sure that we alternate between explaining an idea and summarizing it into a memorable takeaway, right? You see all in the summaries. We all make sure that we have that almost kind of a motto in the end, right? For example, here, the client is in the consulting niche, right? So in the consulting niche, in the B2B founder niche, we, of course, double down on that result. But what do the B2B founders, ultimately they want speed and implementation. So we make sure that it's all ingrained in there. This guy closed blah 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 blah, just proof. We maximize that in that desire from the ICP that we want. For example, here, consistent input leads to predictable results, meaning you're ingraining behavioral inputs for your prospects, for your clients, because if they can just do consistent inputs, they will lead to predictable results. Now, 20K to 65K in 30 days, fast execution. Because what you have to understand is that all of this, they're all priming the next client in this next case study to be to act in a certain way that we want them to act. We're installing behaviors to them. What did we do to it? Here, we understand speed and implementation. We did consistency. Here we did speed again, fast execution with precise messaging to provide the best outcome. You're explaining, or you're putting fragments of these different puzzles and you're forming it into your client's or prospect's brain so that when they get to be a client, they execute faster, they have speed and implementation, and they're consistent, because that leads to predictable results, right? It's streamlined acquisition system that prints cash on autopilot, because who wouldn't love a lead flow that is regular, consistent, right? It's 42K in 24 hours, hypnotizing the way to making 100K per month. Now it's rooted in this offer, because Ibrahim is like a coach with a hypnosis coach. He hypnotizes billionaires. So we want to always connect that motto that we always do for our clients. For example, we had a client who's doing mental health, right? How do we make sure that the motto or the banner at the end is like connected to the offer? It's helping one person beat DPDR every day on the path to 100K per month, right? So his offer is mental health. So we want to make sure that we use that same angle. This offer is contractor niche, consistent 9K, 12K deals with coupled with the best client fulfillment. Best client fulfillment. Imagine your future client or your prospects actually heard that. You have the best client fulfillment in the market. Easy, right? Predictable results with a streamlined process delivered. Now let's look at this. Scaling to 100K per month, one property at a time. Because this is a real estate offer from Daniel. I pretty know. I know lots of people know him. One property at a time, right? Saving lives one at a time. Depending on the offer, if it's mental health, it's saving lives. It's if it's Airbnb or real estate, one property at a time, right? Now, every carousel has one job, one problem, one mechanism, and one transformation. Nothing else. Because when you dilute this with different messaging, different body, different narrative, you're gonna be blurring out what the actual message that you're trying to propagate. That your identity behavioral systems that you want to subconsciously install to your clients or prospects will be out of hand. It's gonna be thrown in the sink. It's gonna be thrown to the trash, because the information that they're taking is not really gonna connect to them. Because, for example, this one carousel might not connect to one founder, but might connect to another, depending on how we framed all of this. So who are we trying to attract? For example, we could have written here that we help Carlos from 0K per month or 0 per month to 187K per month in 6 months. We could have said that. We said 0. We could have written here 0. But guess what that happens to the marketing? We will attract more 0 people. 0. Right? Depending on who you show and what you show and how you show it in your marketing, you're gonna attract and you're gonna get. Right? So if you say you help them from 0, you help this guy from 0, you're gonna attract 0 people. But if you say that you help him from 3.5, okay, which is his actual salary, you're not lying really, right? It's 0 from his info offer, but like it's 3.5K when he was in his 9-to-5 job. So you will attract 3.5K people who's already doing money, who's already closing clients, but they somehow, for example, just charging $500 500 packages for one client. That's terrible, right? So you will attract people here. And you could just literally, you know that they can sell. You know that they already have content. You know they already have proven formats. You just need to translate it to a different market. And that's money. That's cash, right? Now, another thing is, for example, you need to make sure that the story is always aligned to the people that you're trying to feature here. For example, Soul, very nice guy, very awesome guy, right? He scaled from 0 to 88 in 101 days. But he's a business coach, and he doesn't start on a conventional business wise perspective where he just started vibe scaling his business and that's it. Now, Saul went from being a 9 to 5er, unsure of what problem he was solving with an offer that drives zero conversions, to now 97 days in, he solved his acquisition issue, installed a setter to help him with SOPs, and we focused on his branding, right? Making him 81K in 97 days with zero friction, high profit, plus low churn, right? And you can even see that maybe like Soul is fucking good storyline so far. Because he's amazing, thanks mate, so useful, we'll do that. 8K made this weekend, streamlined acquisition system that prints cash on autopilot. Now, the biggest mistake is trying to teach 10 ideas. A great carousel teaches one idea deeply, right? On that specific sequence, there's only one idea. 95er turned founder. Founder who's traveling the world, busy, now operating his business with 4 CEOs, right? Former content guy, now managing lots of videography students. 18-year-old guy with a lot of results, making 33K in 17 days. Next, this is the format, which is the framework for a high converting carousel. Hook, problem, root cause, new mechanism, explaining the mechanism, proof, CDA with future identity and on top of the 8th slide. But before we discuss that, we go back to how we position the brand. Because depending on how you position your brand, you're going to make sure you're going to get the people that you want to achieve. For example, you choose a personality that guides how your brand communicates visually, right? Hero, sage, rebel, creator. Hero is bold, action-oriented. Sage is a wise, calm. Rebel is disruptive and loud. Creator is like artistic and expressive, right? Positioning statement, tone of voice, visual mood. If your brand speaks like a coach, it can't look like a therapist. You have to match the tone of voice with the visual tone. Say, for example, this one is deep blue. Look at the color wheel. Look at color psychology. You will understand that deep blue means deep authority, right? Deep credibility, deep understanding of his craft to relate to the people listening that he's someone worth listening to, right? And you can search just on Pinterest the color rules that you can have. You can search in Pinterest the exact inspirations, right? It's all ruled in there. Now, before we go over how to make sure that the tone of voice is actually playful, confident, grounded, experimental, we need to make sure that the business objective is greater than the visual priority, and it leads to the visual priority actually. What are you optimizing for? Your objective is to be an authority, to have conversion, to achieve virality, and to be a thought leader, right? And it ties back to each other time and time again. But you have to understand that some of these are poisons to take. For example, if you just try to go viral, you're gonna go bold typography, fast scan and hierarchy, fast paced and virality driven. But you can't just do that if you have an authority driven branding where you're professional, you're minimal, you're trust driven, and your colors are blue and gray, right? It's a bleak contrast. Your high contrast CDAs, offer first layouts, means conversion, right? Thought leader means you're having an editorial grid with text-driven carousels. Stage 2, you need to understand how to make your brand look DNA. You need to make research and audit first. Your objective is like reverse engineer what works and find a visual white space. Design is communication. Design is manipulation. So first, how to make sure that you copy this without copying it. Because these guys copied it while copying it. Right? How to make sure to copy this, just the structure of it, and turn it into your own. You make it yourself. Because great artists steal. Great artists steal. How to copy that? How to steal that? You audit 5 to 10 brands in your niche. You have a checklist. What colors dominate? What layout structures repeat? What do they treat? How do they treat typography? What formats do they use? Look at the biggest brands. Like what do they use? What do they present themselves with? How do they present themselves with? How do they make sure that they are always seen as someone credible? Right? What formats do they use? Plot the results on a mood grid, just like this one. And you make sure that you decide which path you're going to take, which is clean versus textured, loud versus quiet. Your competitor research equals finding visual shortcuts, right? So here you already have a visual shortcut, meaning just by looking at this, okay, we need to make sure that there's a banner, and I need to make sure that the result that I tied for myself is deeply rooted on the carousel design that I'm going to be making, right? That's already a cheat sheet in order for you to follow, but how can you make yourself original and not be a copycat, monkey see, monkey do? If all coaches are using gold black, what if we went to pastel brutalist? What is pastel, right? How do, for the people that don't know, of course, pastel. What if we use these colors, right? Pastel design, right? If SAS uses soft gradients, what if we use red, white, kinetic text, right? All kinetic text. And you can see here, Iman. With this kinds of visual, you mainly see it on software. And it all makes sense for him because like he has one software and an education brand, which is kind of also a software. And he integrated it into his brand. So SaaS founders do this. Why not? Why can't I do it in my own personal brand? Again, we go to the mood boards. If everyone's whispering, shouting stands out. But if everyone's shouting, whispers win. How am I implementing it into my own brand? You see this, guys, like how do you optimize? How do you post 10 times per day with this type of branding, with this content formula, with this hack that you can learn with the one single prompt and Claude? I'm not doing that. My last post is 1 week ago, but this post gave me a $10,000 deal, right? This gave me a $10,000 deal just for show of proof. This gave me a $10,000 deal. Show proof, stack proof, social proof, solid proof, right? This exact reel gave me a $10,000 deal. This exact bio gave me a $3,000, $6,000 deal. This call out gave me a $6,000 deal. All these little minute details of how I told my stories, I discussed this on my content architecture video, you can just watch. But all these details come up and stack with each other, complementing each one, which moves people higher and higher up the floors of conversion, right? And you might be hearing children in the background. I'm sorry, I have a big family. I love all of them. So you could just listen to the joy of the kids, or just listen to me yap, right? Listen to me talk nonstop. Now, again, we make sure that the mood board type, depending on the purpose, is matching to the branding design that we want to create. So we want this to be expected. For example, Nick's setting, he has an expected brand. No one is surprised if he's hitting 2.7, 100K months. No one is surprised. That's how he is. It's natural to him, right? With Danko, it's natural to him when he introduces these big ideas, poetic ideas. With Matt Gray, he's using this connection-driven branding, right? Disruptive. Look total different. Pinks and modern fonts instead, right? Again, Iman. is mainly used for SaaS founders, but he implemented in the info space. Then aspirational. What's your ideal audience? Is visually attracted to. Let's go to Matt Gray. Busy professionals, executives, sick and tired of their 9 to 5 job, depressing four-cornered walls. What did he do? He presented nature. You can do this. You can do business. You can do my business. You can run a business without all those stress, without all those headaches, without all those stress tolerance that you have to take in a day-to-day basis. You can do all of this while traveling the world, seeing nature, touching grass, right? Depending on your ICP. How about Danko? Danko, he wants poetry. He wants simplicity. He wants depth, right? So that's what he shows. Nick, he wants B2B founders, detail-oriented, proof-driven, and mechanism-driven, complex funnels, right? Because those are the founders that he wants to attract. Because when a founder sees, okay, there's actually a system working underneath all of those branding assets, I might actually pay him, right? Now, look at what platforms where your current audience already hang out. What posts do they save or screenshot? Now, you can reverse engineer this. For example, what if you could be the destructive force in an industry which haven't been penetrated with that kind of messaging, right? For example, if all like coaches in your industry is like all the super serious, super glamorous presents themselves in a way where everyone is saturated, everyone's fighting for each other, it's a complete red ocean. What if you can find a better differentiation for yourself, that you can present yourself differently? You're suddenly a new guy. You build a conversion-driven design system. Your objective is that you turn your brand strategy into a replicable, scalable visual system. Here's what 95% of creatives get it wrong. They make brands that look cool, not the ones that convert, right? Doesn't mean that this all look cool, doesn't mean that they are converting. Not at all. Like what I said to you, the message cannot be diluted by the visual branding that we want to install. It has to be in another way. The graphic system cannot be just visual porn. It needs to be a visual reinforcement of the message that we're trying to propagate, which is conversion. Next, we want to make sure that you design like a funnel engineer, because every color, every font, every layout is a micro salesman. Every single proof stacked over each other is a micro salesman moving your prospects from 1% conversion to 20%, to 50%, to 70%, to 90%, to 110% conversion driven, where they get to the call pre-sold. That's what's happening to me as well, right? I have less than 30 posts in my account, right? But all my sales calls are 100% closing rate, right? And that's the reason why I have the brand gravity that I can say this exact bio. You go to me for one thing, differentiation. And I can back that with social proof and proof. Because look at just the caliber of the people that I've worked with and the amount of achievement that I can result for myself. And I'm not even like scaling this yet. I just do this and maximize the LTV for my clients. Now, we have to understand the logo system, because here you cannot just like randomly build all of this without the necessary blueprint to help you have a industry-leading branding. We get to the logo, and the logo is just letter G, accentuated blue with an arrow on top, and it's a little bit shiny with textures on it, but it's very, very fairly understandable. Its primary main brand mark is blue. Its secondary is like horizontal, vertical variation, and the icon is used for 5 icons, app icons, and IG profile pictures. This is literally the profile picture, right? This is literally the profile picture of the IG page. How do we make sure that that is converting for the colors. So the core colors is the backgrounds, and they mainly are beige, black, and white. The accent colors are headlines, content, pop-up. They're deep navy and maroon. The CDA is like the sales buttons only. Orange, green, and red. Why is the CTA orange, green, and red? Just like a street light or a traffic light, it induces behavior and action. There's a science between how you literally use your colors. Again, the reason why we use blue here is not because just for fancy and for premium messaging. No, we want to make sure that the authority is driven in the credibility of how we propagate our message. But also, in the CDAs, the sales buttons, if it's orange, meaning, okay, stop a little bit, green, go, red, ultimate stop, right? You mean to make sure that the psychology of the colors is deeply ingrained on their branding. Your analogy, your CDA color is the buy now button in your shop window. If it blends in, it's like putting a sale in an invisible link, right? And so that's the main reason why, like I said in the very beginning, you have this design rules. You have these design rules, but you have to break them from time to time in order for you to accentuate and highlight what you want to achieve. For example, in here, I see this. For example, just look at this. I see this, I go to this page, and I see that the URL genius is highlighted. I have a behavioral pattern in my brain where I see this is a little bit different. I might as well click on it, right? And that's rooted for the behavior. For example, here, there's a notification, right? Chances are you're going to click on this notification because the notifications are entirely different to the brand coloring of the software, of the IG. So you want to click on this because it's different. It's all blue, white, black, then there's sudden red. I want to click it. Next, fonts. Fonts, you want to make sure that you stay close to serif because that gives you authority and depth, because it's great for guides or white papers. If you stick to sans, it's like modern, action, best for CDA driven brands. And the display is emotion, hook slides or reel codes, right? Grid plus layout systems. Of course, this is just basic sizing. Imagery guidelines, set do's and don'ts for images, right? Candid lifestyle shots, neutral backgrounds, real people. How do you do that? Candid, like this. Candid lifestyle shots. And then we make sure that we also define lighting rules and color treatment. But besides all of that, we also need to make sure that we have a constraint system in which how we actually do the things. Because again, if you don't set constraints for yourself, you defeat the purpose of the entire branding. Because the entire purpose of a branding system is for you to have an association with one system, one body of knowledge, one intellectual property. For example, me, I always say and propagate the message in the premise of content architecture. 1 year into talking about content architecture, it might be blank or it might be scratched in my brain. But for the people that might be hearing this for 3 months, for like 6 months, for a year, they would associate my name, June himself, June Albrechts, to the content architecture premise, to the content architecture intellectual property, to the content architecture study, because they know that the person talking about that exact framework is none other than June himself, right? Only set 3 colors, only use 2 fonts, 1 music genre, and 1 art style. And we won't be discussing stage 4 because this is a whole new topic in and of itself. But let's go back to how you actually can now make your high converting carousel, right? First, you start with a hook. You grab attention by challenging an existing belief or exposing a painful problem. Let's look at an example, right? This is the hook. From 19K to 80K per month in 4 months. Your hook would depend on your niche. For example, if you're in a fitness offer from 19% body fat to 8% body fat in 3 weeks, right? Or you could slightly differentiate your messaging where from struggling 9-to-5er busy on his schedule to now traveling the world with time, location, and financial freedom, right? Now you have that understanding, right? How do we make sure the hook is driving existing belief or exposing a painful problem, right? You drive an existing belief here. Who are the people making 3.5K per month? That's their existing belief. Who are the people 19K per month? Who are people at 20K per month? Who are people at zero? Who are people at 42K deals? Who are people building? Who are people 20K? Who are the people in the subcontractor niche doing 15K? And then you extract belief to them that these are the reasons that you can scale. I did this for one client already. Here is the case study. Just read it. If you want help, just go to me. Right? That's what you do. Right? And then you go to the problem. You show the reader what you understand their current struggle. You understand their current struggle. Right? You show here. This is Ibrahim's story. After pivoting to hypnosis coaching for business owners, he hit a lead generation wall and had no idea what to do next. Unclarity, no lead flow. Launched his business from the ground up with an unclear offer. Unclarity, zero conversions, right? Complex fulfillment for low value clients. Stuck at 20K. Unqualified leads with no ability to convert. You are always agitating their pain. Because the more you can paint a picture of their problem in their brain, the more they will trust you. And the more they will trust you, the more money they will pay you. Next, we go on the root cause. Why the problem exists. The issue isn't your content, it's your positioning. We make sure that we always analyze where their problem currently lies. We reposition his marketing message because his marketing message is terrible. We build this content ecosystem and ad process to create market dominance. Right? We define this ICP, offer, pricing, and payment systems. Map out APIs and growth path. Now, new mechanism. Introduce a unique solution for framework. Since all of this is operating at a framework, which is the founder's framework, which is the profile funnel, $120 million in track client revenue, 350 plus client wins, Forbes featured. These are all replicating or rotating into his profile funnel, into his body of knowledge, which is profile funnel. If I want to replicate this for myself, I need to do content architecture. This is the content architecture that will help you blah, 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 blah. And this is how you differentiate yourself from the entire market that you're moving in, so you are not in a red ocean. I discussed this on the entire 1 hour Loom video with myself. You could just check that out in my YouTube channel. Now we go here again, go back. Profile funnel, story sequence, push cadence. For me, content architecture, intellectual cities, intellectual properties, building a inner world and identity, right? And then you again stack proof. You make sure you support your claims with client stories, screenshots, results, and case studies. Proof builds trust. Your future identity helps reader imagine who they become after adapting the new belief. Who are they gonna be if they followed your framework and your mechanism, right? Who are they gonna be? They're gonna be a clear testament of how company executes with speed and precision to provide the best results. If you want to achieve results just like Mark with his consulting agency, check it out for yourself, right? He moved to one of the biggest penthouses in California. Consistent 10K days, predictable 18K days, lean A-player team with zero stress. You're painting the dream. You're imagining yourself or the readers of who they become after adapting the new belief. Instead of chasing clients, clients start coming to you, right? And then you give them a CDA with a motto or with a YouTube video. Give one clear next step and then DM a profile to get the framework. Boom. Easy. YouTube video, CTA, YouTube video, conversation, YouTube video, conversation, YouTube video, proof, YouTube video, proof. Stack proof time and time again, and you will never be able to be defeated, right? Again, just a quick recap. Make sure that there's a clear picture, there's a pain point, there's what we did, outcomes made, interview, and CTA. Now, again, just for you to have another branding trademark or branding inspirations, right? So you can use any of these inspirations. You can go to Pinterest, you can go to me to help you out with this. And then you can make sure that every single colors, textures, point of accentuation is rooted onto the identity of your brand. Meaning, if you're trying to signify growth, authority, and trust, you go to these colors, you go to these palettes, you go to these backgrounds, you go to these sample cover formats, and these testimonial post inspirations, and these real cover samples. You go with these fonts, you go with these textures. If you're opting into that professionalism, you go to that accented colors, plain black and white, right? With an accent color. Now, if you want to be a playful, experimental, eye-catching brand, you want to use dynamic layers. You go with plain black with textures, but with a color palette of warm colors, warm tones, with a bit of a new cool tones. But most importantly, it doesn't get shy away from that branding that you want to achieve with the textures and the fonts, right? And then this is the formula: hook, problem, root cause, you believe, unique mechanism. And just remember that great carousels don't just share information. They systematically replace old beliefs with new ones until the reader naturally arrives at the conclusion that your solution is the next logical step. All of this are rooted into content architecture that I discuss with me and my clients that allowed me to generate results just like this for my clients and for myself with just 50 days of run rate with my own consulting program. And you can use this for yourself. You can book a call with me if you want help. But if you want these guidelines, this visual branding system, you can DM me on Instagram, say brand, and I'm gonna make sure that you have the full authority of replicating this exact 6-stage visual branding. So you have a visual guide on what you're doing in your brand. So you and your brand actually holds up to the weight of the authority and credibility of the brand that you've already been building. Because visual is the final step, right? It's the first step. Meaning, if you have proven formats already, if you have proven case studies already, if you have proof that you can actually do what you try to do, just like this, if you're stacking proof more and more, and if you need help on all of this, I can show you, just DM me. Or if you don't want, I have multiple case studies, multiple testimonials, multiple proof, and multiple value videos that you can check on my Instagram so that you will not be in this exact loophole of a state of unclarity. Because people go to me for two things: differentiation and direction. If you want differentiation, if you're in a red ocean and you want to be an industry leader in your market, you go to me. Because I've already done it with my clients, right? My clients and myself with only 103 followers, 19 posts, and 97 following. With almost 30 posts, I was able to collect cash for myself and generate and help contribute to a 600K month for one of my biggest case studies, and now implementing it for the others that I'm helping with right now. So if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments, and let me know also if the videos that you want me to record is not there yet and you want me to request and do it for you. I will surely do that for you, but let's just appreciate the time that we've spent together. If you have come to this point, comment glass, because I've only used this glass, and I will know if you watched till the end and generated value for yourself. And who knows, I might send you $100. I might send you $100 just for you commenting and because you made it to this point. But scaling info products is beautiful as long as you know that you're helping people change their lives. I am in the process of changing the lives of the two of my clients because the unclarity that they have is easily solvable when you go to the right person with the right execution, with the right case studies, and with the right implementations and explanations on all the questions that you're trying to answer. And so I truly enjoyed this video. I'm losing my voice currently, and that doesn't matter as long as I generate this much value, because value is all it takes in order for you to give and bless people towards the moving into the right direction. And yep, see you in the next video. Gonna be discussing how to create Miro boards just like this. And if you're excited for that, comment Miro again. Right? So if you commented those 3 CTAs that I said you, brand for the carousel maker, glass for if you watch until the end, and then what did I say next? Miro if you want the next video to be delivered as fast as possible. Yep, I truly enjoyed being with you, and see you in the next one.